Asus Zenfone 5 has a somewhat compact yet contoured body with an 8 megapixel camera, an Intel processor, and that Zen UI interface. Is it the best bang for your buck? Or can you do better with some other budget-friendly smartphone like the Moto G? Stick around to find out. What's up everyone, Ian here from Udroid Mania, and I gotta say when I was asked to review the Zenfone 5, I was a bit skeptical because I was only familiar with their pad phone, which for me was a complete turnoff. Needless to say, I got the phone in hand, so let's start by taking a look at the design. After having and using the phone just over a month now, I have to say that the bezels on the front are a bit larger than I would have liked, especially at the top and bottom. Also, I'm not really sure how I feel about the chin of the phone. I mean, I do like that there's a bit of metal there, but I'm not really sure that it serves a purpose. The phone has a real nice fit to it in the hand, and the back cover also has a matte finish, which means that it's not too slippery. It's also replaceable, so if you get tired of the color, you can easily switch it out. When it comes to the size of a phone, well, that's a personal preference. And for me personally, I don't like phones that have a display smaller than 5 inches. And at this size, I think that Asus has done a good job in making the Zenfone 5 feel comfortable and easy to use. This phone's a decent mid-ranger with an IPS display, but I've definitely seen better. Icons look sharp and colorful, just as you'd expect. On the other hand, outdoors, however, I find it to be quite the opposite. It's very reflective and even on its maximum setting, not quite bright enough. If you're reading indoors, especially in bed at night, when the phone's on its lowest setting, I still think here it's just a bit too bright for my liking using the normal brightness slider. And one of the main issues that I have with this phone is the performance when it comes to watching videos. As you can see here, there's a lot of lag and dropped frames. When it comes to internal storage options, you have a choice of 8 or 16 gigs. I chose the 8. But after using it for about a month, I can tell you that you're gonna want the beefier version. Not only because the amount of storage space left on the phone, but for the extra RAM. Especially since this one only has 1 gig. This phone is currently running KitKat 4.4.2 and Asus has confirmed that it'll get the Lollipop update, but not until April at the earliest. When it comes to the software, Zen UI is not all bad in my opinion. It kind of reminds me of a mix between the Sony Xperia Z3 and the LG G3 skin. When it comes to overall performance and battery life, it's not good news unfortunately. The Zenfone 5's 2110 mAh battery, for instance, hits a serious weak point. This phone has a dual SIM card slot, but it's limited to 3G. It does have support for a micro SD card up to 64 gigs, which is good, you're gonna need it. But I gotta come back to that battery. While the back cover of the phone is removable, the battery is not, and you're forever committed to keeping an eye on the battery meter. I mean, I couldn't even make it through this review video without the battery dying and having to charge the phone at least once. When it comes to browsing the web, answering a few tweets, and checking Facebook frequently, you might experience some sluggishness. And yes, I've said this before, but even though the Zenfone 5 struggles with performance, it's not the worst I've seen. Now when it comes to the camera, I'd say that's average at best. It does have features like burst shot mode with all the usual filters, and they're readily available. In daylight, you're gonna get some decent shots. I did find that the camera had a hard time in low light situations, especially focusing up close, even after several attempts and a bit of frustration. Damn! While occasionally it did take some passable shots, but it wasn't always great at focusing on objects whether they were distant or close up to the lens. At least when it comes to camera controls, you can attempt to make things better by adjusting things like the ISO, the white balance, and exposure value. Video here really wasn't much better, but I don't expect the Zenfone 5's camera to go toe-to-toe or even outperform something like the Sony Xperia Z3. But I do expect decent photos. I don't really use the front-facing camera much, so I can let this one pass. Overall, I'll say the Asus Zenfone 5 is a nicely designed budget phone with a cool user interface and a decent price. As you've seen, however, I have had my share of issues from this phone, from poor performance to the fact that the battery doesn't come close to a full day and it's not replaceable. I wish the phone didn't rock on the table as I try to type because this is a common use case for me, but hey, who am I to complain? If your main concern is getting a budget phone to check social networks and browse on the web that's sometimes reliable, then the Zenfone 5 might be enough for you. Is it the best bang for the buck? What the you know what? Okay, so there you have it. If you've enjoyed this video, then now would be the time to rate, comment, and share. If you're new to the channel, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button for more content like this. As always, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next one.